welcome to NOPOD, where we provide NA speaker meetings and workshops in a podcast. We are an ad-free podcast, and if you enjoy listening, please help us to be self-supporting by visiting nopod.xyz, look for the donate link, and drop $1 or $2 in the virtual basket. If you're also in AA or have friends that are, please tell them about our other podcast, Sobercast. Sobercast features AA speakers and workshops in the same format as NOPOD. We upload a new speaker every day, and it's easy to subscribe by searching for Sobercast, that's 2 words, on any podcast player app, or go to Sobercast.com. Enjoy the podcast, and thanks for listening.
My name is Julie. I'm an addict.
Hi, Julie.
I'm blessed. I'm a blessed addict today because I woke up. I didn't come to. And I'm even more blessed because I woke up in Denmark. So thank you. Thank you very much. Everybody has been so kind. I like recovery in Denmark. I loved the countdown. It's very nice, yes. My story. I'm old. I was born in the 50s, and I came up in the 60s. I'm from Northern California, San Francisco. It was a time of music, rock and roll, new things jumping off. I lived across the bay from San Francisco, and I would spend my little allowance that my parents gave me to take the bus to Golden Gate Park so I could hear the Grateful Dead and Jefferson Starship and Quicksilver Messenger, and they would push around in the polo fields a garbage can on wheels with a cup, and it was electric Kool-Aid. And then I'd get home in time. My family wouldn't ask anything if I got home in time for dinner. If I slid into dinner, no one said anything. Where have you been? What have you done? How was your day? We watched the news during dinner. No one talked. I started to change and hang out in Berkeley, California as a youngster. The shorter bus ride. It was hippies. We were all hippies. And satellite TV had started. And our major newscaster was Walter Cronkite. And the news would come on. I'd sit down, I'd make it in time so no one knew where I had been. And Walter Cronkite would come on the TV and say, and today in Berkeley, California, it was satellite TV. Walter Cronkite was in New York, but he knew what had happened in Berkeley. And I was just, there were riots in People's Park, Black Panthers, Angela Davis, lots of things in the 60s going on. And I would just, don't let me be on TV. But it was a wild time to come up with the music. I graduated from high school at 17 in 1971. And I went on to go to university. Yeah, a little town in Northern California, Chico State, California. And it was rated the #1 party school in Playboy magazine for 4 years in a row. But I stayed for 9. I went from a hippie to a disco queen. And being that I was from Oakland, and everybody was funkified in Oakland, I was a cool dancer at the disco. I met him, the drug dealer, with my drug of choice. Not that I hadn't been doing lots of drugs before that, but this time I met what really worked. I went with him to Jamaica to smuggle money into the country to bring back drugs. He produced a reggae album. We went all over. It was the high life for a minute. I'm the only girl in my family. I have 2 brothers. I have all male cousins. My brother had 4 boys, lots of uncles. So after dinner, my mother's from Sweden. My mother's people were from Sweden and Norway. And after dinner, the ladies, my aunties, would go do the dishes in the kitchen. But what the men were doing was more attractive for me. They were playing cards. And I learned to play cards for money. And I got good at it. So when I got up to Chico University, I was still playing the games. My father got sick and I came back to the Bay Area, back to Oakland. We have a band called Tower of Power, and they have an album, Back to Oakland. So I came back to Oakland, and I started partying with famous people from the Raiders, football, the A's, baseball, and the Warriors, basketball. And we'd stay up till the sun came up. I was asked by the bartender if I would marry him. And I hadn't done that yet, so I said, okay. I don't know how I got put together with what we call a redneck, cowboy. I was a hippie and a disco queen. He was a Republican. I'm a Democrat. I'm born and raised in Oakland. He had skinny little lips. It was... I had 2 children, 2 beautiful children. We moved to Southern California, where the yachts are. I have a lot of ocean under my belt. I have 4,000 miles of ocean that I've cruised in the Pacific. We came back to the Bay Area, back to Oakland, because my mother got sick. And my children were little. And I was spiraling with that disease to the bottom. This disease is physical, it's mental, and it's spiritual. And my spirit was dying. There was no spark left in me. I didn't know what to do. But I still had some dope. So I took an airplane to Reno, Nevada, which is in the mountains, and finished my bag. And I came home, just like the literature said, wanting more. To the bitter ends, the getting and using more, more, more. My husband had gone with the children camping, and he said if I didn't do something about my drug problem, I would never see my children again. And I got home with no drugs, and I slid against the wall to the floor. And I looked, and the telephone was there. And I crawled to the telephone, and I called the hotline. I called Narcotics Anonymous for help. They weren't quite sure where Castro Valley was, where my house was. So they sent me to a meeting 30 minutes away up over a hill where the rednecks were. I had a little Volkswagen driving up over the hill, and I got there, and it was all young people. I was 41 years old when I got here. And I walked into that meeting with my coffee and my cigarettes and looked around, and it was all young people in their 20s with colored hair sticking up and piercings and tats all over. And I thought, well, this must be the place. It was at a church that had a nice parking lot over here, and then there was a gravel parking lot over here, and that's where everybody parked, in the gravel, and smoking cigarettes and telling lies, and and I get out of my little Volkswagen and walk up to them, not knowing what Narcotics Anonymous was, except that I remember somebody telling me, go to Narcotics Anonymous. I knew it was the last stop for me. It was nowhere else to go. There was no other help to get. And if they didn't help me, I was going to die. A young man came up to me, and he was a little chubby. He put on some weight, and he introduced himself. And he said, I'm glad you're here. And I was so surprised that he was talking to me. He took me over to the literature, and I didn't know anything about the literature. How could I pick out what I needed? And he put some colored pamphlets in my hand, and then he said, would you like a cup of coffee? It's free. I thought, these punks are nice. And then he said, sit down. When they ask for newcomers, raise your hand. And then you clapped for me. You told me I was important. That young man's name was Mike Walker, and I can say his full name because he completed this program, and there's only one way to complete this program, and that's to die clean. I've been around long enough to see lots of us complete this program, and I've been around long enough to see lots of us not, and go out there and not make it back. I know I can die if I'm not vigilant with my program. If I will die if I don't work my steps, if I don't call my sponsor, if I'm not in service, if I don't have a higher power, if I don't fellowship with you, I will die. You are my medicine, and you are why I'm clean. Mike Walker died a couple years ago of cancer. He married my road dog, and that's an important tool in recovery. When I got to that redneck meeting, there was a gal that had the same, she was new too. And we hooked up, and we started going to meetings, and we got the schedule. And in our area, there's a lot of meetings. We call it the tri-area. We had to split up in three different areas because it was so big. So all three areas are on this schedule, and we go, well, it's Tuesday night, and we'd have a choice of like 15 meetings. So it took us a while to hit all of them. We were driving all over, and we'd get in the car on the way, and we'd talk about what kept us clean today. How did we manage not to use? Well, yeah. And then we'd go to the meeting, and on the way home, we'd talk about what we heard, so we could stay clean another day. Yeah. Her mom would give her $1. That's all she'd get. Didn't trust her with money. And I had my little $1, and we put it in the basket. My first bit of service was to my children. My children's father wouldn't let me go to meetings unless the children had been fed and bathed and in their PJs ready for bed. So I couldn't very well get to a meeting early to make coffee. I couldn't be the secretary. I couldn't be a GSR, general service rep, because I work weekends. I'm a nurse. I work intensive care and emergency room. I see all of us. Oh, I could start a vein right here. I don't know if any of you had heroin as your drug of choice, but in the emergency room we have a drug called Narcan, and it takes your high away like that. I love to watch. Let's start that IV, and we know you're going to be mad, so we tie you down. And I'll watch that needle hit that IV and watch it go. And all of a sudden the patient is, and their first thought, I know their first thought is, I gotta get more. So they look around for the exit sign and they find it and they think, I gotta get up. And then they're tied. Then their next thought is, I gotta get somebody to untie me. And there I am. Hi. We fucked up your high, didn't we? My sponsor says I have to quit doing that, but it's too much fun. So, my little son came home from school, and he was just 6 years old, and it was his first day of school, and I had a little snack for him and all, and his sister was playing somewhere, and he's very dramatic. I knew he was my addict from the beginning, very dramatic addict, and he's leaning on the counter and he's going, Mom, we're not going to have a library day. I go, well, why not? Well, we can't get a mom to be the librarian. So I asked him, what does a librarian do? Whips out the paper and shows me, everything I would have to do. And it was only 30 minutes once a week. I thought I could do that. And then I thought, what is the clean time requirement? But I did it, and he was proud. My higher power was showing me I could do something. And when that little boy looked at me, when his class would come in the room, single file, he'd give me a little wave, and I'd wave back. Somebody would say, Bowen, there's your mom. He was proud. And I was able to keep that commitment. Then I was my daughter's librarian mom. It was her turn. One time my daughter, in the school, they share. They'll say, this is on Fridays, everybody brings something they want to show the other students. Like, this is my favorite book, or this is a picture of my grandma, or whatever. They'd share something special in school. And my daughter said, Mama, I want to share you. Oh, she says, wear what you wear to work. Stethoscope and scrubs. And she says, and be at the door at 10 o'clock. And they would make clues. They'd bring what they were sharing in a bag. And then they'd read the clues, and the other students would have to guess what they had to share. Well, my daughter comes to the door and brings me in, and there's 32 little eyes, little people in little desks staring back at me, and this addict felt less than. I was afraid that they would judge me or know who I was or what I was really about. And I stood there looking at them, and my daughter gets out her clues, and she says she saves lives. She makes dinner. She helps me with my homework. And she is kind. I wish I had that paper today. That little girl is 28 years old now. And when we get back to California, Danny and I are walking her down the aisle to get married. Oh. I get it is my only chance to give her away. This is her one and only. She's a normie. I believe in this man she is marrying. He's a good man. And it thrills me to get to see that maybe I broke the chain somewhere, that my daughter isn't an addict. Then there's my son. He was a good student, he got excellent grades. He ran for athletics, cross country, and he played tennis. So when he graduated from high school, they called him a Herculean scholar because he had such good grades, and he lettered. They get a letter on their high school jacket every semester. And after that, he decided he must have missed something, and he hooked up with the wrong kids. Maybe the right kids, who knows? He quickly spiraled down, picking up felonies, ODing, splitting his head open and getting his head stapled back together. By the time he was 19, he'd hit a bottom. I couldn't take it when he was spiraling down, and I talked to a sponsee. I go, I don't know what I'm going to do. She says, well, you should do what you told me to do. I go, well, what's that? And she said, you have to kick him out. I had to ask my son to leave. We started locking the doors. I told him I didn't want him around unless he was clean. He met me at my home group one night, and he said, Mama, I know I can't come home unless I'm clean, but I'm hungry. Could I just come home and eat? I said, no. I didn't want to keep him on the fence. I didn't want to think that maybe I could contribute to him dying if he stays clean kinda a little bit longer. I wanted him to have his own path. I wanted his higher power to pick him up and show him what to do. He'd been to meetings since he was a little guy. He told somebody one time that he thought, on Sundays I like to have family dinners. I like a lot of people at my table. I like to feed people. And he told somebody he thought that he always just had Sunday dinners with a bunch of his mom's friends. Come to find out they were all addicts. They were good addicts. They were winners. You can be a winner in this program if you just get vigilant and work the program. It will change your life. Lost dreams will be awakened. You can be... Before I kicked him out, he had been to a poker game, playing poker, and he'd seen through the window the people's dog outside. It was a poor little abused Cocker Spaniel that had been a puppy factory, all matted, and had been kicked. Its face was crooked and one eye was half closed, and it limped. And he came home and said, Mama, I saw a dog that looks as bad as I feel. Can I bring it home? I thought, well, this is before I kicked him out. I thought, well, maybe the dog will get him clean. He can take care of the dog and help the dog. So, okay. The dog was brown, and we washed it and washed it and washed it. And it turned out it was blonde. We took it to the pet store to get some medicine for it. Her ears were infected. We could never get them cleaned enough. She was always kind of stinky and cranky. But that dog stuck next to him. And when I kicked him out, that dog went with him. He stayed on a boat in the Berkeley Marina, and it was winter and it was cold. The little dog couldn't see too well, and sometimes he'd make a turn to go onto the boat, and the little dog would keep going forward and fall in the water. Finally, he found Narcotics Anonymous. He wanted a cup of coffee. He went to a young people's meeting in Berkeley, and somebody just like Mike Walker said, "Hey, I'm glad you're here. Here's some literature. Would you like a cup of coffee?" And then he said, you could come over my house and have dinner at my mom's house. So he fed my boy. I didn't know who that person was, but I prayed for that person. I prayed that person would come into my son's life and make a difference. So he got clean and came home, and he went back to school. He was going to school to be a nurse. Danny and I come home from a meeting, and he's on the couch like this. And there's a cute newcomer sitting next to him. And they both go, "Hi." So that went on for a little while, and then pretty soon it was, "We're pregnant." "Okay. Please keep going to school. Whatever happens, go to school." He did. The baby came. That's Danny's best friend. He's 4.5 years old now, and it's Danny's best friend, Mason. Of course, he's our first, and we think he's brilliant. Pretty soon, and they got married at City Hall, and then pretty soon it was, "We're pregnant." So number 2 came along. Number 2 was born addicted. Mama couldn't stay clean. Number 2 had to kick in the neonatal intensive care. Just a little tiny baby on drugs. He's okay. Ethan's okay. He's funny. He likes food. He might be my next addict. He likes food. He doesn't even ask for anything particular. He'll say, "Does Papa have something to eat?" Well, he graduated from school. He's got a good job as a nurse. My sponsee works as a nurse also, and she just texted me after we got here to Denmark saying, "You would be proud. I worked with Bowen at the hospital, and he's a good nurse." Well, it happened again when Mama got back from recovery because the state stepped in and took her away when that baby was born addicted. She got pregnant again. So we have 3. We got a little baby girl now. But she's not well. She's a 1.5 years old, and she can't sit up. She can't hold her head up. Her eyes are a little goofy. She's happy as heck. She's not in pain. She smiles and laughs. She can't hold things in her hands, and she has a tube in her stomach to be fed. She has cerebral palsy. And my son's a good dad. Mom couldn't handle it and had to go back to recovery because she started using again. But you know what? Life shows up. When you get clean, it's not a bed of roses. My first 5 years were like what we call the pink cloud. Oh my gosh. I'm so pleased that in our readings it says anyone may join us. Because I had a crowd of young people in my life and friends from school in my life that were very diverse. I'm so thrilled that sometimes I'm the only white face at a meeting, and it's not a big deal. They say that I'm not a white girl, they call me vanilla. I'm so thrilled that sometimes I'm the only woman in a meeting. And let me tell you, ladies, we stick together. I want you to work the steps. We don't have enough women to sponsor other women. There's not enough women to choose from. We have to help each other get clean. When I first got clean, they said, Julie, you should be going to activities. You need to go to a dance. I said, oh, dance? Can I dance, I got to the dance and I couldn't even tap my toe. I'd been an addict and circling the bottom, and I was like... So I sat in a chair, and I was watching everybody dance, and this one woman arrived a little late, and everybody cheered when she got there. She was about 6 foot tall, and she had this long, beautiful hair. She would throw it back, and she had 3-inch fuck me pumps on, and a little mini skirt, and she had moves you wouldn't believe, and I was and everybody wanted to dance with her, and I says, wow. And the guy sitting next to me goes, wow, that is one tall woman. And I noticed her Adam's apple. Anyone may join us, and that was my crowd. We were diverse in every possible way. I don't care what your sexual preference is, or religion, or no religion, or how much money you have, or how little you have. We just want to hear about what you want to do about your problem and how we can help. Well, life started showing up around 6 years for me. My mom got very sick. Being the only female in the family, it was my job. I spoke hospital. It was my job to take care of her. She had Alzheimer's and couldn't remember things. I was the last person she remembered sometimes. And she'd look at me and ask me to protect her. She'd say, I know I've done something wrong, but let me live in my house. Or she'd wonder who my children were. And of course, my son would goof off and she'd say, shut up, boy. And he'd laugh. He thought that was funny. But I allowed my mom to die pain-free and with her dignity, because I watched my sponsor do the same thing. I watched her she had a sister, and the two of them took care of their mom. And when it was my turn, I said, I wish I had a sister. And she says, come on, let's go. And she helped me. Soon after that, I found a lump in my breast. I felt it. It was like a candy, a gummy bear, a chewy candy. And I knew a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing. And I went to the doctor that Monday morning. I found it on a weekend. And by noon, I was down in the surgeon's office, and they were taking a needle biopsy. And he says, it's probably cancer, so next Monday we're going to do a lumpectomy. It was like the horses took off. They broke away from the wagon, and I was being dragged down the road. I didn't get a choice. I had to trust my higher power, to trust these people, because I came to Narcotics Anonymous to live. And when I came to after that surgery, he said, it is cancer, and we're going to have to take the whole breast next Monday. In the meantime, I had a churchy friend who was born again, who said, Julie, you got to come to the Santa Cruz Mountains with me for this spiritual retreat with her church. Well, I'm not a religious person, and, church women aren't my thing. But I would take the help from anybody's higher power. And I figured I needed a stronger conscious contact with the God of my understanding to get through this. So maybe I'd get something, take something and leave the rest behind. And when I got there, my friend hooked me up with a woman that had breast cancer. There were 400 women there. And she takes me to the corner of the room and pulls up her shirt and says, touch my scars. I didn't want to touch her scars. I didn't want to look like that. She's touched my scars. Okay. At the end of the weekend, the pastor says, does anybody want to testify? That's what they do in church. Well, I don't know how to testify, but I can share. And I went to the front of that church and I said, Monday morning, because it happened every Monday, I had a biopsy, a lumpectomy. Monday morning, they're going to take my tit off. You know, everybody in the church went, ooh. You know, it's the wrong word to use in front of church women, but you know, we're addicts. We just tell it like it is. I let people pray any way they wanted to for me. At the end of meetings, you know, people ask if they could circle up around me and pray. People asked if they could put their hands on me and pray. You know, people offered things up at their temples and prayed. I took it all. Heck yeah, you can pray for me. You can only take so many casseroles in your refrigerator, but you could pray for me and I'll take it. People would send me cards, get well cards, because the following Monday after that, I went to surgery for a port so I could start chemo. And they'd hit me with the poison every 3 weeks, knock me down. And I'd get cards in the mail from addicts. And I saved every card. I still have them. And I'd put them up in the kitchen along the ceiling all the way around so when I would get up in the morning, I could see who loves me. Because when I got here, I didn't feel very loved. And I needed love, and I wanted love. And you said you would love me till I could love myself. I lost my hair. I'd get in the shower and bathe, and something was missing. I'd get out of the shower and see myself in the mirror, and I didn't want to see that. My children's father took off with the neighbor lady. I had a bit of a breakdown. I was the only parent for my children. And then I had radiation. Every day for 6 weeks, they'd point these machines at me and leave the room. And my skin split open like a radiation burn, and all the nerves were so, I couldn't even move. I couldn't turn my head or raise my arms, and I was sitting. It was Christmas time, and I was in the living room, and my children's father was yelling at me and walking back and forth saying, why haven't you got the Christmas decorations out of the attic? And I was hanging onto the chair, and I couldn't even move. I was wondering, who the fuck does he think he is? And the phone rang because I had said, God, help me. And the phone rang. And it was the lady I met at that church retreat that said, touch my scars. And just like we do, we saddle up, we take the wagons and form a circle. The posse goes out and gets you. She says, Julie, how are you? And I started to cry and I told her it's just terrible. And she says, I have what you need. And she came up over the hill in a storm in her car and sent her daughter to the door, and the daughter handed in this envelope. And it was a patch, thermocare patch, and you put it on the radiation burn and it instantly relieved the pain. And I could move my arms and my head. And I thought, man, I need more of this shit. I got a friend that's a pharmacist, Pharmacy Fred, he's an addict. I called him the next morning, told him what it was and that I needed a box of it. And he said, no problem. He ordered it and got it for me that day. It wasn't a drug. It didn't change the way I felt. It just eased the pain of the radiation burn. This is the color of my hair. This is what came back. I used to have brown hair. I was so thrilled to get some hair. I had told God, if I have to be bald, the least you could do is give me curly hair. And when it came in, it was a little curly, but I forgot to tell God for how long. I got curly hair for about 6 weeks. Got a haircut, little trim, and looked on the floor and there were my curls. This isn't real curls today. When it was all over, I went back to that surgeon that cut my breast off, and I said, I want you to take the other breast because I'm afraid. I'm afraid of what happened on this side is going on over here, and I didn't come here to die. I want to live. I want to do everything I could to keep that cancer at bay. He was a little surprised. I said, when you take that tit off, I want you to have a plastic surgeon standing by so he can make me 2 cute titties. I am man-made, bolted on, and federal drug approved. I am reminded constantly of what a blessed addict I am. It was a God thing to have that man leave me, to have my children's father take off with the neighbor lady. She left 4 children at home too, and the 2 of them took off. Danny was my friend. He'd been my friend for about 4 years. He'd come over to the house and eat dinner. And he'd call and say, what do you want me to pray for? And at first I thought, my poor children, they were so tore up. I said, I didn't care. Ask him to come, ask God to send that man back for my children's sake so their father could be here. I didn't care how he always treated me poorly. But I thought as a mother I should do this for the children. The children deserved a happy mom. Finally, I had been hearing about the things he was doing, and Danny calls, what do you want me to pray for? And I said, don't pray to bring him back. And Danny said, well, you want to go out? My daughter says, Mom, you're dating now. You can't keep dressing like a librarian. So she put me in a mini skirt, 3-inch fuck me pumps. And when Danny rang the doorbell, I opened up the door and he went, hi. We went to San Francisco to a club I used to go to as a kid. I couldn't remember what that club looked like, really. I was too loaded every time I went. It had chandeliers hanging from the ceiling and velvet curtains, and I'm looking around, and Danny and I danced. And we sang. And it was the first time in a long time that I threw my hands up, opened up my voice and sang and danced like I didn't care what I looked like or what I sounded like. I was free. Narcotics Anonymous sets you free. I have a women's meeting in my living room on Wednesdays. Not that we don't have a place to go, but it's not sanctioned by Narcotics Anonymous. A group of women, a group of us decided years ago that we needed to address what's going on today. Drugs weren't my problem. Drugs were my solution to my problem. Today, the steps are the solution to my problem. And we needed to talk about how to apply the steps to what's going on today in our lives. And we started getting together on Wednesdays. We call ourselves the Nanas. We have a secret handshake I can show you in Denmark. When we see each other in meetings, we go, and we run into that room on Wednesdays. We get in there and we are ready to tell each other what it's like, what's going on. We've been through the entire workbook. This is the green and gold. Every question. We came up with a workbook for the traditions. We've worked all the traditions. And now we put together a workbook for living clean. That's an amazing book. It talks about the passion in recovery. It uses words the basic text doesn't. passion. I have a passion for living clean today. I have a passion. I like my job. I go to work. I have a passion for feeding my family and doing the little things. We go to bed early. We watch TV. We're fuddy-dudds. I have a passion for paying my bills so electricity will stay on. I got a passion for a clean bed. I changed the sheets. So, and we've never heard about each other in the meetings. What we say in that room on Wednesday nights stays there. We'll see each other in other meetings. But we never hear about it. We have gotten so honest and so naked and so close. I have women in my life today, so many of them, people can't believe it. I'll go to work and we'll talk about our lives outside of work and whatnot, and they'll say, Julie, you have so many friends. Yeah, I do, huh? What a blessing. When my son thought the coolest thing on earth was eating hot dogs. He's a little guy. I have a friend in recovery who had a hot dog cart by the airport. She had one eye. We called her One-Eyed Jeannie. Her hot dog cart was called Jeannie's Weenies. And on Wednesdays, the kids got out of school early, so I would take them down to Jeannie's Weenies and get the recovery discount, and we'd eat hot dogs. My son thought that was the coolest thing on earth because Jeannie could eat all the hot dogs she wanted. What a job, a hot dog cart full of hot dogs. So his birthday was, and then the kids they'd say, can we bring a friend? Pretty soon my car on Wednesdays after school was full. And we'd all go to Jeannie's Weenies. And Jeannie offered for Bowen's birthday to bring her cart to the driveway and feed all his friends. Oh, man, it was the coolest thing on earth. We fed the entire neighborhood. He could, if he could have, he would have just bust his buttons. My daughter, when she got into middle school, I think she was like 11. She was a cheerleader, which was not what I was. I was a hippie. She was, with a rah-rah for the sports and everything. Kind of bitchy. And she gets her PE clothes. She's going to have to take PE. So she gets issued her PE clothes, and she's very petite. She's barely 5 foot tall. And she gets the extra small PE clothes and tries them on, and she's looking in the mirror and says, oh no, I'm not going to wear this to school. I'm not going to school if I have to wear this. I'm just, holy cow, what am I going to do? You guys taught me how to parent my children. I went to a meeting and said, what am I going to do? How am I going to get this girl to show up at school? Well, I had a friend. I can say his full name too, Joe Caloca. Joe Caloca spent a lot of time down in the federal pen. He was the tailor in San Quentin. I said, Joe, you got to help me. He comes over, a little Spanish guy, and he's got the tape measure around his neck and a pin cushion on his wrist, and he's got a pencil. He's licking the pencil, and he's measuring her. He says, honey, I tell you, I'll have you looking good. You're going to be looking good at school. It's going to be all right. Joe comes back the next day. She tries on the clothes, and she looks, she goes, all right, I'll go to school. Where would I have found a friend but in Narcotics Anonymous like that? The tailor from San Quentin getting my daughter creased out. We help each other in here. There's little things like if you're going to move, somebody else shows up with a truck and we all help you move. Somebody passes, we're all cooking food and having a party to celebrate their life. When Joe died, he told his wife, call Julie. She'll take care of everything. His wife was very shy and didn't know what to do, and she called me and said, Bucky, that was his nickname in the family. Bucky died. Bucky told me to call you. Who would have thought I would spend time road dogging to meetings with an ex-con from San Quentin? But we related. Our stories, no matter who you are, the pain is the same. The joy is the same. We will divide your pain if you share it. We will multiply your joy. I like the passion of recovery in Denmark. You guys clap a lot. My sponsor died. She, liver, got very sick. And they took her to intensive care at the hospital, and I was with her husband. And it's something I do all the time, is watch people die. I take them off ventilators. I'm always on the codes. If they're flatlined and we've given them every drug under the sun and they still aren't going to come back, we say, okay, 11:30, let's call it. And we're so cold, we just step back and say, all right, and go to the computers and we all chart our part. 11:30, we stopped. It's not the same when it's somebody you know. I have a new sponsor. Well, she's been in my life several years. It's not quite the same, but I trust her. I love her. I call her when it's bad. I check in when it's good. I have sponsees that call me, and I'll look at my phone and think, what are they calling for now? They're checking in. They're honoring me and keeping me clean, because that's what sponsorship does. We're a guide through the 12 steps. You've got a guide. Everybody should have a sponsor. But your sponsor is not a bank. Your sponsor's not a babysitter. Your sponsor's not a taxi. Your sponsor's not a relationship counselor. Some people, their sponsor isn't even their friend. But your sponsor is somebody that will love you and that you can trust, and they will give you what was given to them, freely given to them. I have one sponsee that she's just about done with the steps. She came from the prisons. She was in the bathroom or in the kitchen getting coffee, and she was talking to somebody else trying to convince them to be her sponsor. This woman was my sponsee. This woman's at the sink just scared to death going, ah! And she sees me come in and she goes, Julie, what? You live in Castro Valley. You could sponsor her, couldn't you? And I said, I have 8 sponsees. Yeah, I can sponsor her. But I got to find a balance. You all have to have a balance with work and your family and your relationships and your health. So Daniela becomes my sponsee, and I'm thinking, man, I am stinking tired. I'm going to have to break it down to this tattooed chick, how it's going to go. She comes over to the house, and I said, I don't want to see your thong underwear. I don't want you getting up and getting coffee during the meeting. You may not for a year get another tattoo. And she's just, trying to take all this in. I'm sure she's thinking, who the heck does this chick think she is? And I said, and we're going to get started in the book right now. And I said, and you're a mom. She had a little girl in grammar school. I said, you're a mom. You can't wear those clothes anymore. I took her to a yard sale. It's a white elephant sale, rummage sale. I don't know what you call it. It was a big one. museum it was a benefit for the museum, so all these rich bitches had, turned in all their stuff. And so we're driving to the rich bitch sale, and she's saying, what do you think I ought to get? And her grandmother had just bought her some itty bitty trailer to live in. I said, well, maybe you could get something, a picture for your trailer. And I said, you're going to need a job, so maybe you should get some work shoes. And I said, and then you could get a dress to wear to the PTA, which is the the parents' meetings. And then I said, you could get a cocktail dress, but you may not wear that dress for a year. No dates for a year. It doesn't say that in the book. But I was laying it down for her. She said, okay. So we go to the sale, and she got it all for a couple of dollars. We're on the freeway, and she rolls the window down, and she sticks her head out in the freeway, and she goes, recovery is fucking great! Last week, she showed up at the H&I meeting and just lit a fire under those guys. She was shocked that they didn't have enough books to give to every recovery house and every prison. And she says, we got to get some books. My old sponsee's husband is head of H&I, and he's, well, yeah, but, she goes, I guess I got to get the books, huh? And Gary says, yeah. So we're having a Halloween dance, and she's going to have a table there collecting money. You're not going to get past Daniela unless you donate a book to H&I. I can tell you that right now. She is a mover and a shaker, and she's not afraid to let you know how great recovery is. And she has been the fire under me at times. I've gone to court with my sponsees. I've gone to the hospital with them. I've gone to their weddings. I've held their babies. My life is rich, my life is full. After Danny and I went out on that date, we went to a meeting, and he got down on one knee before the meeting started. The secretary had said, do we have any non-NA related announcements? And Danny got down on one knee and took his hat off and said, Julie, I love you. Will you marry me? Will you be my wife? And everybody cheered. I thought, oh my God, they love me. I'm just always so surprised. And Danny's still on his knee, and he says, say something. We went to the courthouse to get the certificate. And I guess they thought we were pretty old because, the commissioners here today, we could marry you today. So we drove home and got my son, and he was our witness. It was a Thursday. We went out to dinner, and then we did what we know how to do best. We went to a meeting and said we got married. A year later, we decided we had missed something. We didn't get to celebrate with our friends. So a year later, we redid our vows and had a thing in the backyard. This month, we will have been married 10 years. My daughter thought he was a nut. She says, he can't come in the house, Mom. When we were first dating, he could only get as close as the door. And on that first date, he wanted to walk me to the door, and I said, oh no, I'm okay. Because I went to all those meetings, by myself. It was before GPS. I had a MacBook and found my meetings. It was before cell phones. The phone was attached to the wall. The first cell phone I saw was at a meeting. It was like a brick on this guy's leg. I said, no, Daddy, I can get myself to the door. He walks me to the door, and I go to give him that NA hug, and he snuck in a kiss with these full, beautiful lips. And I was so scared, I jumped in the house and slammed the door, and I ran upstairs. I felt like I was sneaking into my parents' house. The kids were asleep. And as I got my little flannel nightie on, and I was putting on the miracle cream, and today I can look in the mirror. When I first got here, I couldn't look myself in the eyes. I was looking in the mirror, and I'm looking deep down inside my soul, trying to decide how I felt about that kiss, because I hadn't kissed anybody in 22 years but those skinny little Republican lips. And I told myself, if he tries to kiss you again, you're going to kiss him back. My daughter said, no, you can't come in. You know, it went on for quite a while. He'd walk me to the door. We'd go to meetings for a date, and then we'd drive somewhere and go make out. And then he'd drive me home. Finally, she let him in. She says, you know, he's too happy, Mom. She says, have you heard his laugh? He's crazy. And she goes, besides, he shaves his head. I said, I know, I kind of like that. Today, she absolutely adores that man. She hasn't spoke to her father since he left. She doesn't know who he is. He became a person she didn't understand. She has no desire to have that person in her life, but she wants Danny to walk her down the aisle. That's love. My son, I asked Danny to have a talk with my son about sex. So Danny went to Costco and bought a big box of condoms and threw them in his truck. My son comes into the house and says, Mom, did you put something in my car? Danny taught my son how to shake hands, how to tie a tie. Lost dreams awaken. I'm not going to promise you that you're going to get a relationship. That is not what will fix you. You have to become who you deserve in your life. And when you least expect it, you can't look for it. You become the person you deserve in your life. Something will happen. Something will come. And you will find your purpose. I have a relationship with a higher power. I don't think I've ever seen a shape or a statue or anything that could depict my higher power. My higher power is a feeling in my chest where I thought I was going to die. It is full again. And I believe my higher power is light. I look to the light for my answers. There are so many stars in the sky. Every star, I believe, is a prayer for my granddaughter. I'm particularly drawn to the moon for me. The sun comes out behind the clouds. The candles are lit. It's the light. There's an answer for all of us if you just get in touch, if you let go. I am a blessed addict in recovery. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Please help us improve our ranking so others can find us by putting a review on Stitcher, iTunes, or your favorite podcast index. NOPOD is ad-free thanks to the folks supporting the show with $1 more per month. If you enjoy listening, you can join them by going to nopod.xyz and looking for the donate link. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.